Kyota Ushiyama is someone who has all the deadlift strength in the world, but suffers from a whole host of different lockout issues. He has pulled for the win at multiple worlds, he's pulled for a podium at Sheffield, but from jury overrules to soft knees to grip failures to ramping to hitching, we've seen it all with him. He just can't quite seem to lock out that deadlift. This is a story of Kyota Ushiyama and his lockout troubles. So I'm going to be looking at pretty much all his deadlifts from his international debut in 2022 at IPF Worlds. He hit 282.5 on his second attempt, and you can sort of see there how the knees almost kind of lock and unlock, and you're going to see a lot more of that in this video. That one did end up getting 3 white lights, and that locked up a 685 total for him, which was enough to seal the bronze medal at that year's Worlds. But on his third attempt, he loaded up 295, what would have given him a 697.5 total and a silver medal. And you can see that knee getting stuck, which is what you could see glimpses of in that second attempt, happened there, and that time it was not good enough. He did lift it, and that is the story with Kyota. He always lifts the weight, he just can't quite lock it out cleanly, and he ended up getting a white from the front, but 2 red lights from both side rests for not locking out fully. And you can see there, that's, screwing up side by side from his successful second to his unsuccessful third. And the margins are fine, and that's something you'll see more of when I show his later attempts. He always gets so close, and we saw it at World Games just a few days ago as well. But he can't quite break that curse, and he had to settle for bronze that year instead of silver had he been given that lift, which he did in fact lift, just not fully successfully. So his next competition after that was 2023 Japan Nationals, and he hit 287.5 on his second attempt, and there he's standing up with it there. And he loaded up 300 kilos on his third, and this time he did successfully get it, and this gave him 712.5, which unofficially broke the 66 kilo IPF world record of 710.5 at the time. And he did get white lights for it on that day. And this was done just a week before the inaugural Sheffield, so the hype was pretty high given that Kyota had just broken the world record here. And you can see there he is locking out that 300 kilos, which, again, if you look at his lockout position in isolation, a lot of these missed lifts we're going to see actually do look good. Obviously you got white lights for this one, but a lot of the other ones look good. It's just not even just the lockout position, but a matter of how he gets it there. And he has issues with his knees being soft and ramping up the legs, which we'll see coming up. But then he competes a week later at Sheffield, the inaugural Sheffield, and he hits a 280 kilo opener, which he gets 3 white lights on. But again, that lockout is a bit sticky, and it came back to bite him on his next attempts. So he loaded up 300.5 kilos on his second to take the deadlift world record. He had already locked up a 685 total on his opening deadlift, and this would have given him 705.5, but unfortunately here it wasn't so much a technical miss at lockout as it was not full on strength miss. He still got off the floor, but it definitely didn't come close to completing the lift on that attempt. So he takes another swing at it on his third, and again, this would have given him a 705.5 total, which wouldn't have been enough to podium at that year's Sheffield. However, it would have placed him higher than the 8th that he managed to finish in. But again, that one ended up being a miss on strength, which is rare for Kyota. We usually see him stand up with the weight and miss it on technicality, which is kind of the whole premise of this video. But those 2 lifts he did in fact miss on strength, those 2 world record attempts. And he ended up finishing 8th at that year's Sheffield. Then we get to 2023 Worlds, and this is probably the most painful one if you're a Kyota fan. So he opens with 275, so a bit of a lighter open on these last few comps, and absolutely smokes it. But again, that right knee, you can see he's like teetering on the edge of unlocking at lockout. On his second attempt, he takes a sizable jump to 292.5. He was already on a 692.5 total on his opening deadlift. And again, that right knee, you can see it. He successfully lifts it, but that right knee is a bit worse than the opener. And it initially is given 2 white lights, a red from one side ref, and because of that, it is reviewed by the jury, and the jury overrules. The jury steps in and takes that lift away from Kyota. Unclear what the exact reason was, whether it was a soft lockout or whether it was sort of the knees locking, unlocking, such ramping up the legs, but that lift was taken away from him, and that would have given him a 710 kilo total, which would have put him comfortably into first place on his second deadlift. But luckily for him, it was his second, so he had one more attempt, and he would go on to retake it for his third, to try and pull for the win, the gold medal at Worlds, and again he successfully lifts it, and it looks cleaner than his second, but again he gets 2 red lights. Well, actually he gets 2 red lights this time, and the jury would have looked at it given that it was a 2-1 call. However, they did not overrule it in his favor. The 2 red lights he got were blues, which is, I believe, a what is that, like ramping, I think, or supporting off the legs. But there is the lockout position of his 292.5 compared to his successful 275 opener, and you can definitely see a difference. I mean, the right knee definitely looks softer, and the fact of how he got it there as well, not just the position itself. But these are the fine margins we're talking about when it comes to Kyota and his deadlifts. And like I said, he ended up finishing on 692.5, courtesy of that opening pull, which gave him a bronze medal for his second successive Worlds, just like the previous year. However, this time, his missed deadlift on his second and his third would have given him the gold medal. Like I said, 710 total is what he would have got had he have got any of those 2 lifts, and that would have given him a gold medal at that year's Worlds. And the fact that he lifted it not once but twice, and he got white light on one of them just to get taken away by the jury, that was a painful watch if you're a Kyota fan. That year's Worlds was. But he did in fact get an invite to Sheffield yet again, 2024 Sheffield, and he opens with 280. And at this point, we're used to seeing him open pretty comfortably, and it looked good. I mean, again, the knees looked slightly questionable, but it was given to him 3 white lights. The lift was easy. Strength-wise, clearly not a problem for him. You can see the lockout position there. Then he jumps to 295 on his second attempt, and he actually was on a 690 total after his opener. So this would have put him into the 700s, but this time it seemed like it was the grip that gave out. And this is where the grip issues start coming in. Most of his misses up until this point had been due to sort of that lockout position, the knees, the ramping, soft knees, whereas here we start to see a bit of grip misses come in. So he missed out on grip, although the lockout position he would have got it to probably wouldn't have stood anyway. But he retakes it. He doesn't just retake on his third, he moves up and further 7.5 on his third. And like I said, he was on a 690 total after his opener, which ended up finishing him in 10th position. But he jumped to 302.5 here on his third, which would have given him 712.5, breaking the world record by 2 kilos. And again, he stands up with it, and this time the grip doesn't give out. This time, the failure mode, yet another different failure mode, seems to have been balanced. He seems to just lost his balance, and unfortunately, he got 3 red lights, all yellow card failures, which means he just missed the down command. So yeah, he missed the down command before he lost balance and had to return it to the ground. Although, if you take the split second where he was standing up with it and compare it side by side to his successful opener, he pretty much had that. So back-to-back, super painful deadlift rounds for him at Worlds and at that Sheffield. At Worlds, he only got his opening deadlift, missed his second and his third, that would have given him the win. At Sheffield, his second, was a miss on grip, fair enough. His third, though, again, he got to that locked out position. You would think if he just held on a split second longer and got the down command, that probably would have been given to him. But yeah, that would have given him 712.5, which would have broken the world record, and it would have given him provincial first place at the time, and he would have finished on podium at Sheffield. He would have finished in third place, ahead of Delaney Wallace that year, who broke the world record by a smaller percentage than Kyota would have on that pull, and he only would have finished behind Jonathan Kaiko and Gustav Hedlund, who broke the world record by a bigger amount. But that is how close Kyota came, not just to winning Worlds previously, but also to getting a Sheffield podium. And again, these weren't weights he missed all out on strength. He lifted every single one of these pretty much. Just not quite. How close can you get? You can't get any closer than that. But then he returns later that year to compete at Japanese Nationals. Now this time he opens lighter, but he goes to 280 kilos on his second attempt, and he actually gets red lighted for this one. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know what the infraction was. Those lights that I showed you there weren't for that specific pull. I know that lift was not given to him. I just don't know why, because I didn't see what the lights were on the Japanese live stream there, but it was taken away from him for potentially ramping up the legs, soft knees, or whatever it was. But he retakes it on his third attempt. He was only on a 667.5 total. Well, sorry, this gave him a 667.5 total because he successfully came back to hit 280 on his third. So his total was a bit down from previous performances. And in fact, he didn't even win this national title. He finished in second place behind Yusuke Satake, who actually beat him, another Japanese 66 lifter. So it seemed like Kyota lost out on his world spot for a second, although he did still make it to Worlds 2025, and we're glad, 2024, and we're glad he did because it was part of the legendary battle that I'm about to show you. But yeah, that 283rd attempt, the lockout position, again, looked pretty damn similar to that second attempt. So, you know, like I said, I don't know what the infraction was on his second. If anyone knows, let me know. But he did come back and hit his third, although he did total quite a bit less than he had before. But on to 2024 Worlds, despite losing his nationals and finishing second, he still got a spot. And he takes 277.5 on his open arm. And this locks in a 692.5 total on his opening deadlift. So pretty similar to what we had seen at the previous year's Worlds. In fact, the exact same that what we had seen in previous year's Worlds. And then he goes and attempts 290 kilos on his second. Now, what I will say is that opener did look very good. When I was watching this live and I saw that opening pull, I thought it was in a pretty good position because it was one of the cleanest lifts I had seen him do. Then he goes to 290 on his second attempt. Right? And this would have put him, I believe, provincially into the lead with a 705 total. And the lift looks good, but the grip can't hold. I think the knees and everything were fine on that pull. The lockout looked fine. If he had just held that and got the down command, I believe that would have been given to him. But unfortunately, the grip gives out before the down command and he gets 3 reds on that lift. And you can see there, again, the fraction of a second, similar to Sheffield earlier that year. If he had held it for a fraction of a second longer, he probably would have got that. So again, he did all the hard work. He lifted the weight. He just couldn't quite hold it at the very top. This time it wasn't a balance issue like it was at Sheffield, but it seemed like it was just a grip failure. But he jumps another 5 kilos for his third attempt, and the significance of this is this would have given him the win. So like I said, he was 692.5 on his opening pull. He ended up finishing in 5th position. Now, a lot of people at 2024 Worlds remember the crazy battle of the 66ers between Kasim San, Panna, Jonathan Garcia, who all finished on 707.5. Yes, that was insane, but people forget Kyota was very much part of that battle until the very end. Kyota also pulled for the win. All the highlights I saw about that 6-6 battle, everyone neglects the fact that Kyota was a part of that, which is kind of annoying. But Kyota loaded 295 for his third attempt, and this would have given him a 710 kilo total, which would have been enough for the win. And look how close he gets. His grip does give out again, but it wasn't as much a grip failure as it was just him not quite being able to get his hips through. So if we look at that position, yeah, that's pretty clearly not locked out. And how close is that? Yet again, for the second straight year at Worlds, he pulls for the win, he lifts the weight, but he just can't fully finish it to the technical rules. And this time, yeah, like I said, his grip did give out, but he was holding that position for a while, and it was pretty clear that his knees and hips were just sort of stuck, and he couldn't get that final half an inch onto his pull, and he didn't get a single white light, so the jury couldn't jump in, which, I mean, the jury would never have overruled that anyway. But yeah, that would have put him from 5th position onto 1st, and would have entirely changed how people viewed that Battle of the 66ers at Worlds. So instead of being absolutely forgotten and no one mentioning him, not being part of any of the highlight reels of that session because everyone focused on the podium, he would have very much been part of that because he would have got the win had he just got that final quarter of an inch. That's how fine the margins are when it comes to Kyota's deadlifts. Then he competed at the Asian Championships at the end of last year. And this is where he had his best performance to date and seemed to have broken his curse. So he opens with 287.5 and he absolutely smokes it. You can see slight technique adjustment from him, and that moved absolutely, crazy fast, and it looked fine as well. The lockout position looked good. Then he goes to 300 kilos for his second attempt, and this would be to break the world record and lock up a 725 total. In fact, he actually broke the world record in his opener, 712.5. He jumped another 12.5 for a 725 total, which was quite a bit harder, and he gets it done, and he gets a 2-to-1 white light, and the lift is given to him. Now, I will say there was some slight, controversy with this. Was it locked out? Was it not? Some people were saying it was soft, and, he got a comfortable call from the judges there. The side that gave him a red was the side we just watched the video from, which did look a little bit soft. But if you look at it from the other side, which is this one, he gets a white light from this side. You can sort of see why, because it does look a lot better from this side, from this angle. So it looks a lot more locked out than the video we just saw. So I'm kind of okay with them giving that to him. It was a borderline one, but I think you could definitely argue it was locked out and the call just went in his favor that day, as opposed to all the other days where it very much did not. But yeah, that gave him a 725 total and broke the world record officially, finally, after all those years he was chasing it. After all those years where he broke it unofficially, finally did it officially, extending it by 12.5 kilos to 725. And then he jumps to 308 on his third to try and add another 8 kilos to the world record. And this time he doesn't really come close. So this was definitely a miss on strength. He couldn't get it off the floor, which was one of the rare just all-out misses on strength that we've seen from Kyota, as opposed to all his other failures being a mixture of, like I said, grip, knees, lockout, balance, whatever the case may be. That one was definitely him being, or the weight just being too much on that day. Although he did walk away with the world record, and it seemed like it had finally broken the curse because he only missed on strength. He actually did find his top-end strength on deadlifts on that day. Then World Games. So this is what just happened a few days ago, and this was going to be Kyota's final meet as a 66, he announced. So I was hoping to see him finish on a high note and continue the fact that he broke the streak or broke the curse on his last performance, but unfortunately was not to be. So he opened with 275, and this moved pretty smoothly and looked pretty good. Slight little knock on that right knee there, but it gets 3 white lights, good lift. And then he goes to 290 kilos on his second attempt, and this locked up a 717.5 total, which was enough for second place and a silver medal behind Joe Jordan in the lightweight category of World Games. So he gets 2-to-1 in that, and you can see his lockout position there. I think it looked good, 717.5. Yeah, definitely a good lift in my opinion. And then he jumps 297.5 for his third attempt, and this would have given him 725 to equal his personal best that he set at the Asian Championships last year, and it would have given him the win. So yet again, here he is pulling for the win. This time it's for a World Games gold medal. 297.5, a weight he has done before. And again he lifts it, but again he can't quite lock it out and hold on to it. That is the lockout position he ended up getting to. And again, comparing side by side to the 290, it is mighty close, but it's just that quarter of an inch missing. Just like at Worlds in 2024, he just couldn't quite get his hips and knees fully locked out in that last little bit, and his grip gave out. But that was already after. It was pretty clear he wasn't going to be locking it out anyway. So Kyota Ushiyama, it seems like his deadlift curse continues. His lost lockouts and the history of that is still very much happening, unfortunately. Although, yeah, the strength is clearly there for a lot more than what he seems to hit on most of his competition days. And now that he's bulking up to 74 kilos, I'll be interested to see if, or what effect that has on his deadlifts, right? Some people, when they move up weight class, a deadlift actually takes a step backwards. Some people it helps. So who knows how the weight gain is going to play into his deadlift leverages. But I think it's pretty clear he needs to change something. And moving up a weight class could be the thing he needs to finally get rid of this lockout curse on deadlifts once and for all.